following has been developed by state and provincial education agencies in association with the Agency for Instructional Technology. Together, programming for today's learner.
Marshmallows? Chocolate bars. I guess. What about real food? You betcha. We are gonna eat like kings. Good times guaranteed. What if we get lost? We won't. That's what I like about you, Toby. Always looking on the bright side. Well, what if we get lost? We won't get lost. Well, just say we get lost. Look, they have people who know where we are. They're always checking on us. Really? Yep. That'll make my mom happy. Come on, let's go. Oh, what are you doing, Tobe? My mom wants to know when we'll be back. I figure it'll be 4:35 Sunday afternoon. Wait a minute, how do you figure that? Well, we have to cover 60 kilometers, right? If we stroke 20 times a minute, that's 6 kilometers an hour, times 10 hours of actual paddling, plus the time for eating and sleeping. I don't know, that doesn't sound right. I mean, what about the extra weight we're carrying? What about the extra time we're wasting? What if we find a great spot and we just want to hang around? They've got a point, you know. What'd you say? I said, let's go.
Sometimes going for an exact answer doesn't get you anywhere.
It's true. He'll never figure it out exactly. He can't. But the best he can do is come up with a good estimate.
There are too many variables. The weather, the current, how long they take to eat.
How many, chocolate bars?
How many moose?
Moose, Russell?
Forget it.
Yeah. Anyway, estimating is one of the skills we use most.
You sometimes need to know about how long or heavy something is, or about how much money you'll spend at the store.
And knowing if your answer is in the ballpark before you do a problem is also important when using a calculator.
And there are a lot of different ways of getting a reasonable estimate. I like rounding, but she likes betweenness.
I say tomato, you say tomato, potato, potato.
Let's call the whole thing off. Yeah.
Boy, am I ever getting hungry. I can almost taste those beans we're having for lunch. We shouldn't stop before we've gone halfway. That means we have to pass 9 more of those marker boys to get there. How far is that? It says here the boys are 458 meters apart. 458? Don't ask me. That's what it says here. So how far is that? Well, what's 458 times 9? Oh, I can never multiply by 9s. Well, we could just approximate, you know. Instead of 458 multiplied by 9, do 500 multiplied by 9. That's, 4,500. Or we could say 450 times 10, which is a lot easier. It's still the same estimate, 4,500. 4,500 meters to lunch. Come on, you guys, paddle.
That was a good example of getting a reasonable estimate by rounding. Instead of trying to multiply 458 times 9,
Robin rounded 458 to 500. 500 times 9 equals 4,500.
but Joey, on the other hand, doesn't feel comfortable with 9, so he's rounded 9 to 10 and 458 to 450. So 10 times 450 equals 4,500.
Let's take a look at another example.
Okay.
Let's say the boys took 62 packages on their canoe trip.
What, of toilet paper?
Well, no. It doesn't really matter what it is, as long as it weighs around 78 grams. Now, they want to know if their boat would sink or not.
Well, they would probably round to the nearest 10 and multiply.
Watch this. 62 rounded to the nearest 10 is 60.
And 78 rounded to the nearest 10 is 80. So 60 times 80 equals 4,800.
4,800 grams? Will they sink?
Well, I don't know. Let's find out.
That was great, wasn't it? The best meal I ever ate. No kidding? No kidding. I'm glad we listened to Robin about the food. What do you mean? Well, remember you said that we should just bring a loaf of bread and a can of beans for each meal so we wouldn't get loaded down? Yeah. Well, in our first meal, mind you, we ate a whole loaf of bread and 3 cans of beans. I guess they underestimated. You sure get hungry paddling. We should spend the night here. You wanna? We can't. Why not? We'll never get back. Who cares? My mother. Oh, yeah. Look, I found this great spot on the map. It looks really fabulous. They say there's good trout fishing there. Here, let me see that. I've measured it already. It's 237 millimeters. Each millimeter equals 80 meters. So for every millimeter, we have to multiply by 80? Right. Okay, so what's 237 multiplied by 80? It doesn't matter. We'll never make it there before dark. We have 5 hours before dark, and we can do 5,000 meters in an hour. How'd you know that? I estimated it. So estimate 237 times 80. Wake me up when you do. Wait a minute. Well, we can use betweenness. I mean, instead of multiplying 237 multiplied by 80, we can multiply 200 by 80. That's 1,600. No, there's supposed to be 3 zeros, 16,000. Right. We can also multiply 250 by 80. That's what? That's 20,000. Okay, so the campground is between 16,000 and 20,000 meters from here. That's 16 to 20 kilometers. I'm sure we can make it before dark. I just hope we don't almost make it and spend the night in some swamp.
That was a good example of estimation by betweenness.
237 lies between 200 and 250. Now, Robin calculated the upper and lower range of his estimate by multiplying 280, which gave him 16,000.
When he remembered all the zeros.
Of course. And 250 by 80, which gave him 20,000. Now, this meant that his estimate lay between 16,000 and 20,000 meters, which was a reasonable distance to cover before dark. We all use estimating skills every day. Some people, like fire attack crews, use it to save property and lives.
As an initial attack pilot, I'll be the first guy called out. The call comes in, the pilot has to start making decisions right away. First of all, how is the weather for the next several hours? Also, we're looking at our crew weights. Generally, we'll look at men at about 80 kilos and women at about 65 kilos. And we're also looking at our weights as far as the equipment we're carrying, the fuel load we're carrying, the distance we have to cover. The distance will come in as a grid or a longitude and latitude. And from that, we go quickly to a map. Today, estimated at 20 miles out, traveling at 2 miles a minute. So we're looking at 10 minutes out, 10 minutes loiter time, 10 minutes back, quickly estimating at 30 minutes. So now we get fired up and the aircraft's running. We take off, traveling at about 500 feet over the bush, and now some new decisions come into play. Can we see the fire? How do we get to the fire? The estimate of the fire size is very important because these fires can run very quickly. Again, we're estimating where the wind is coming from and where we're going to leave the crew, so that the crew will be in a safe position should the fire to start to run. All these estimates are going on. They're second nature, but they're going on at any rate. Okay, now we've decided we're going to land at the fire and let the crew off. First of all, our big fire boss is climbing out, and he weighs about 85 kilos. And out he jumps. As he does that, one has to estimate that we're losing that much weight from our gross weight, and the aircraft's going to try to fly away. So we reduce our power sliding slightly so that the aircraft is still sitting. Generally, water bombers would be en route by this point. A great deal of these helicopters only have 2 hours, 2.5 hours with fuel. If you judge your fuel wrong, the aircraft is going to stop sooner or later. You're going to run out of fuel. And really, fuel is the most critical part of your estimating process. Pilots estimate all the time. The bottom line is, you're on your own. These estimates really count.
Do you realize you've been gone for 52 hours? I never want to see another fish as long as I live.
Do you realize that in every one of those 52 hours you have made 33 complaints?
Do you realize that your life may be coming to an end?
And what is that? 52 times 33.
Oh, that's about 1,500 complaints.
Hey, Rob, whose side are you on?
Hey, look, we're all getting on each other's nerves, so let's just cool it.
1,500? How'd you do that?
How'd I do what?
How'd you make that estimate?
Well, I just kind of did a single-digit multiplication. Instead of trying to multiply 52 by 33, I just took the first digit of each number. That's 5 times 3, which is 15. I'm putting in the zeros for place value.
That's a neat trick. What if it had been 92 complaints in 66 hours?
Watch it, Tobe.
Well, 92 and 66. Take the first digits. 9 times 6. 54.
4.
Oh, but don't forget to put in the zeros for place value.
Right. 54 with 2 zeros. 5,400. Is that right? Let me figure it out. What a complainer.
Toby, do you want to live to see your mother again?
Hey, guys! I think I can see the campgrounds. Come on, let's pour it on.
Come on, Tobe, paddle. We're almost home.
6,072. It's really 6,072.
That's close enough. I mean, using the single-digit multiplication gives you a low estimate, but still a good one.
Isn't it great to be back? I can't believe we actually survived.
Superheroes. I had fun. Yeah, me too.
Want to do it again next weekend?
Remember, an exact answer isn't always necessary.
And it isn't always possible.
So use one of the estimating strategies for multiplication. She uses the single digit.
He likes to round.
She likes betweenness.
He prefers lesser than and greater than.
She says tomato.
He says tomato.
Let's call the whole thing off.
Solve It was supported in part by the National Science Foundation. This program was produced for AIT by the Filmworks. This program was produced under the supervision of the Agency for Instructional Technology.